Sawasdee krap and welcome to another Thailand Top Stories Tuesday's edition. And if you were hoping that the Omicron variant was going to vanish off the world's headlines, that's sadly not going to happen. So we've got the latest news not only here in Thailand but also a bit of a world update as well. Also a story today about Thais eating far too much salt. So sodium's back on the headlines as far as the diet of Thais is concerned. All that and more coming up in Thailand's Top Stories. The Airlines Association of Thailand is urging the Thai government to implement a visa waiver for international foreign arrivals, reacting to the lukewarm response of travellers coming to Thailand since the November 1st introduction of the Thailand Pass and fewer restrictions. The AAT wants the government to make coming to Thailand a more attractive proposition as parts of the world start to open up again. The Bangkok Airways and AAT president said that loosening of travel rules and costs such as visa fees and PCR tests will stir demand. He said that visa exemption could be a measure that will help increase the number of international tourists next year. He even threw in a random prediction of 10 million tourists arriving in 2022. He also said that we're in a fierce competition as every country needs tourists to cushion the economic impact. Meanwhile, the CEO of Thai Airways, speaking at the same event, said the national airline was forced to move into cargo and repatriation flights when Thailand's borders were closed last year. Most of the Thai Airways fleet remains mothballed as the company struggles to implement its rehabilitation plan. But the CEO noted that even a huge rise in cargo activity for the national carrier was not adequate to shore up business. All maximum COVID-19 red zones are being lifted and the number of tourism pilot zones increased from Thursday this week. The CCSA has announced that the red zones of maximum control will be lifted in all 23 declared provinces. So no more dark red or red zones in Thailand after this Thursday. Additionally, the number of blue-coded tourism pilot zones will increase from 7 to 8, so will include all of Chonburi, Bangkok, Kanchanaburi, Krabi, Nonthaburi, Pathum Thani, Phang Nga and Phuket. Some provinces had some districts declared as tourism pilot zones, and altogether tourist pilot zones would exist in 26 provinces. Another 6 provinces and districts will also become tourism pilot zones from the start of next year. There's a full list of the new zonings and easings of restrictions at the Thaiger.com. The period of stay under the Sandbox entry scheme will continue to be 7 days. The CCSA had originally approved to cut the period down to 5, but tightened the measures again after the emergence of the Omicron variant. Under the entry scheme, travellers who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 can enter and roam freely in a designated province or area, such as Phuket or Koh Samui, before being free to travel to other parts of the country. The Sandbox scheme remains an entry option for vaccinated travellers with the exception of those arriving from African countries at this time. Those who are vaccinated and travelling from one of the 63 approved low-risk countries are still eligible for quarantine exemption and don't need to enter under the Sandbox program. They will still have to stay one night in an approved SHA Plus hotel, awaiting the result of their PCR test when they arrive. Sean, what's this island called?
This is Koh Rang Yai, a nice private island, nice little spot, beautiful sunset here.
Just off the coast of Phuket. So at the moment, 5-star Marine, you want people to come back. The country is obviously now in a big opening up phase. What are you offering?
So we're actually offering COVID discounts all the way through to December. We're understanding of the situation. We really want to incentivize people to get out. We've been operating all the way through COVID with 11 boats, about 40 staff. So we just wanted them to keep working. You know, the more they're out on the sea, the better it is for us.
Well, I can tell you firsthand that the waters look stunning right around the whole area. I've never seen the waters look so good.
Yeah, and so calm. Like this is like, can you imagine? This is just so calm sitting here floating in the middle of the sea.
And the worst of the wet season is behind us, so now is the time to come back to Thailand, come back to Phuket, and if you want to go and visit the islands, you know what to do. Thanks for joining us. A salt tax, which was slated to have come into effect in Thailand this year but was deferred, could now be implemented early next year with a lead time of 1 or 2 years for industries to adapt. The average Thai person consumes an average of 3,600 milligrams of sodium daily. That's about 1.5 teaspoons of salt, almost twice the World Health Organization's recommended 2,000 milligrams. The Kidney Disease Association announced that some 10% of the population, it's more than 7 million people, suffer from chronic renal failure, a possible result of the country's high sodium intake. Thailand has now recorded 8 Omicron cases since the country reported the first infection on December the 1st. Whilst it's not a lot, the emergence of the variant has led the Thai government to maintain or tighten travel restrictions and disease control measures for entry and try to slow the new variant from spreading in the country. According to the Public Health Ministry, all Omicron cases that have been reported have been imported into the kingdom. Some entered under the Test and Go quarantine exemption scheme or the Sandbox scheme, which are both entry options for vaccinated visitors, but tested positive upon arrival. There's another 3 cases with their results still pending and are tourists from the UK, Nigeria and Congo. Health officials have announced that they will halve to 3 months the time between administering a second COVID-19 vaccine shot and a booster. They say they're urgently trying to strengthen immunity in anticipation of a local spread of the Omicron variant. Looking a bit wider this morning, the USA are again leading the world with new daily COVID infections, followed by the UK, Russia, Germany and Turkey. Regionally, Vietnam recorded the highest number of new cases yesterday, followed by Malaysia, then Thailand. And the UK's PM Boris Johnson announced yesterday that at least 1 patient had died in the UK after contracting the Omicron variant. During a television address, the UK PM said, "I think the idea that this is somehow a milder version of the virus, I think that's something we need to set on one side and just recognise the sheer pace at which it accelerates through the population." The UK Parliament are looking to announce a ramping up of restrictions in the nation following the uptick of new infections. Well, that's the way we see most of the main news stories around Thailand this morning. Now, Natty's coming back into the Thailand Top Stories seat for 3 weeks from the end of this week. I've got a few other things I need to attend to, but in the meantime, don't forget Natty and Jay on Good Morning Thailand, and Jet's also along with Thailand News Today around about 5 o'clock each afternoon, Thai time. But from all of us here, you're up to date on the Thaiger.